Taking a live look outside to start off our 8 a.m. hour. You're taking a live look at Spear Boulevard here close to downtown Denver. A bit of a gloomy start, and look at that, only 61 degrees when this whole week we've been like already in the 70s. What a welcome break if that's your thing. Good morning, everyone. I'm Anusha Roy. We want to head right over to Chris Bianchi because today we're about 10 degrees cooler than what we typically are, which is kind of nice, right? Makes you appreciate the cool down after that long stretch of 90s.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks out there going, I like this. This is kind of more my speed. For me, I would certainly qualify into that group. But hey, weather's subjective. I know there's a lot of people. Corey Rose loves this kind of the hot weather, but I think a lot of us pretty happy to see these low to mid 60s for us in the Eastern Plains, 40s and 50s into the high country. It almost feels like Mother Nature's version of air conditioning out there on this Saturday morning. And overall today, we're only topping out the low to maybe mid 80s for us, depending on how much sunshine we get later today. Clouds will increase early this afternoon with some afternoon showers and storms around. We'll have those kind of a little later into the evening, those showers and storms, but I think for the most part, it is dry until about 3 or 4 o'clock or so. Highs again, much cooler, notably cooler, but notice that Grand Junction, Moab, those temperatures out there, that's a sign of what's to come. That warmer air pushes its way into the picture for tomorrow. So it's a one-day cool down. Meantime, we do have some of that cloud cover out there right now, mostly mid to high level cloud cover, but enough to keep us on the cooler side. Afternoon showers and storms, better chance south of Denver and certainly for us into the high country as well. If you're joining us from the high country, along and south of I-70, more storms today. North of I-70, we're talking about hit or miss stuff, pretty isolated. In Denver, we're probably talking about a much drier look of things north of town. So Fort Collins, Greeley, Fort Morgan, you're probably dry today. In Denver, you get south of town. Better chance for storms today. But tomorrow, we warm back up again and looks fairly warm and dry for the 4th of July forecast. All details on that coming up in a couple minutes.
Thanks so much for that, Chris. New this morning, Denver Fire was responding to a water rescue at Sloan's Lake. Denver Fire posting to social media around 3:30 this morning about a car that was submerged in the water just off the shore. An underwater rescue team started searching but did not find anyone in the area. They said at this point there are no injuries and that they do believe that that car was abandoned. We will, of course, update you as we learn more. It took a jury just 2 hours to come back with a guilty verdict for an 83-year-old man from Inglewood, now convicted of killing his wife and daughter with an axe. Reginald McLaren killed Bethany and Ruth in March of 2023. Originally, McLaren told police that he had planned to kill them to prevent the family from becoming homeless after he lost his job. But then evidence showed that the family did have money. Ann Hines is the executive director of the Colorado-Nepal Alliance and has been keeping in touch with family in India.
I have known Pavitra Rana, also known as Bethany, for the last half a century. We both belong to Kalimpong, a small hill town in eastern India. She was warm and friendly, but reserved socially.
That was a letter shared from one of the victim's close friends. The victim's family is planning a trip here this summer to visit the grave sites. McLaren's sentencing is scheduled for July 10th. The widow of a man shot by Aurora Police while he was on his knees wants to see what led up to that shooting and then what happened moments after. Kylan Lewis was swarmed by an Aurora Police SWAT team serving a warrant on May 23rd. Then seconds after officers rushed out of their trucks, Lewis was on the ground bleeding from a gunshot wound to the stomach. Aurora Police Chief Heather Morris says an officer saw an object in Lewis's hand and then fired one shot. That turned out to be a phone. He died 3 days later in the hospital. His widow, Andres Lewis, has seen the heavily edited body camera video that police released, and she and her attorney are arguing that Kylan did what he was told and was not pointing the phone at anyone in a way that it could be mistaken for a gun.
He's backing up because he turned around and he sees 4 cops with guns in his face. So, of course, naturally, he got a little shook up and he has his phone in his hand and he puts his hands up and he starts going down towards his knees. Like you can see, he starts complying.
She still has questions about the portions of the video that have not been released, especially the moments after the shooting when the chief says officers rushed to help Kylan. A spokesman for Aurora Police told us that the family was given the opportunity to view that video, but then declined to watch it. The officer who shot Lewis is on paid administrative leave while that shooting is investigated. Both presidential campaigns are back at it this weekend trying to make their case to voters after we saw a mix of flubs from President Biden and false claims from former President Trump during the first presidential debate. We saw a more energized President Biden looking to bounce back from a lackluster performance during a North Carolina rally on Friday. Meantime, former President Trump held a post-debate rally of his own in Virginia, where Trump and his supporters are claiming victory in the first presidential face-off. There are concerns on both sides, though, like Biden's age and ability to remain in office for 4 more years, and Trump's series of false statements and dodging questions about accepting election results.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely.
I know I'm not a young man. State the obvious.
A second debate is set for September, giving both candidates another chance to prove to voters that they deserve a second term. Data from Nielsen shows that more than 51 million people tuned into CNN's Thursday night debate. The 90-minute face-off was broadcast across 22 networks, with CNN's flagship channel accounting for about 9.5 million of those viewers. But it was more than a 30% drop compared to the first Biden and Trump debate meeting in 2020. That drew more than 73 million viewers across all networks. After Biden's performance, some Democrats are now calling for him to drop out of the race, and NBC's Peter Alexander has more on what happens next.
Tonight, as President Biden defends his place atop the ticket, some Democrats are considering an extraordinary scenario, whether someone else should be their nominee. Overnight, private worries turn into public alarm.
He had one thing he had to accomplish, and that was reassure America that he was up to the job at his age. And he failed at that tonight.
There are going to be discussion about whether he should continue.
The doubts deepening. One veteran Democratic strategist telling NBC News there is no coming back from this disaster. But tonight, this forceful show of support from former President Obama, writing, "Bad debate nights happen, trust me, I know." But this election is still a choice between someone who has fought for ordinary folks his entire life and someone who only cares about himself. Adding, last night didn't change that. And this from California Governor Gavin Newsom, who some Democrats have floated as an alternative nominee.
You don't turn your back because of one performance. What kind of party does that?
Also defending the president, Democratic Senator John Fetterman, who won despite struggling in his own debate following a stroke, saying, "I refuse to join the Democratic vultures on Biden's shoulder." But more perilous for the president, his performance comes after the White House spent months pushing back against any questions about his mental and physical fitness to serve. The only plausible scenario for Democrats to select a new nominee, according to a DNC Rules Committee member, would be for the president himself to decide to withdraw.
He himself would have to get out of the race, okay? There's no other way to do it. Because those delegates that are already elected, they like Joe Biden, they're loyal to Joe Biden.
If President Biden were to drop out before he's formally nominated in August, it could create a free-for-all among Democrats because there's no mechanism for him or anyone else to anoint a chosen successor.
That was Peter Alexander reporting. President Biden is making it very clear that he is not going anywhere. His aides say the president plans to do the second scheduled debate in September. We have some sad news from the entertainment world this morning. Veteran actor Martin Mull has passed away. Mull's daughter Maggie shared that news on Instagram Friday. She said her father passed away Thursday at home after a valiant fight against a long illness. Mull appeared in numerous movies and TV shows during his career. That includes Roseanne, Veep, and Arrested Development. He was also known for his appearances in Red Roof Inn commercials. Mull was 80 years old. A judge in New Mexico has now denied another motion from Alec Baldwin seeking to dismiss charges against him in the shooting death of Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust. His lawyers say prosecutors failed to turn over evidence. It's not known if that motion will be considered before the trial scheduled start date for next month. Marilyn Monroe's last home will be preserved as a historic cultural monument. The LA City Council voted unanimously to preserve the Hollywood starlet's home, saving it from demolition. According to property records, the bungalow was built in 1929. Now it's worth about $8 million. The house is in California's Brentwood neighborhood where Monroe lived and died. She was 36 years old.